Hello, good afternoon, and welcome to the Full Force News Burst. Let's talk classified SAW Viper, brought to you by Generals Joe's Reborn.com with me, Christopher McLeod, aka Diagnostic AT. Phew. Hope everyone is doing well this Sunday afternoon, or whatever time it is in the world that you're watching this, or what you could be watching this on replay. In which case, it could be the middle of the night, it could be first thing in the morning. Who knows? But good afternoon right now from where I is. Hope you're all doing really well. I thought we would get ahead of the amount of name only reveals that have appeared recently that I now have got loads of videos to do on. Obviously, we'll start with Store Viper. Store Viper is slightly different. A Store Viper is somebody that goes around buying G.I. Joe figures from Target, Walmart. Basically, we're all Store Vipers, are we not? Or online stores as well, I guess. Web stores. Anyway, I hope everyone is doing well. Lots of you in the comments already. Brilliant, awesome stuff. We'll get chatting away. But of course, if you're new to the whole Let's Talk Classified thing, let me explain. We will go through a little history of the character that we're covering today, which is the SAW Viper, of course. We'll touch on all of their figure versions, their kind of appearances in media, in this case, comics and the Deke cartoon, as well as some other bits and pieces we can kind of delve into. And then we'll finish off by actually talking about, the classified, what to expect, what we could expect to see with a classified figure with the SAW Viper, etc., etc. So that's pretty much an overall of what we're getting into today. Hopefully, I've wasted enough time and enough people have jumped on that wanted to live. Hello to everyone in the chat. Like I said, lots of you on here, which is great. Ed, sorry, Chris, you're a pre-order Viper, Ed. Sorry, my man. Speak for yourself, Chris. I'm a diehard pre-order Viper. I like it. I'm not a pre-order Viper at all anymore. Store Viper sounds like a branch of the Crimson Guard, perhaps behind the handling of store exclusives. Probably, Scott. Hello, Plastic Battles. Shout out to Paul. you did this, Paul. You did that. Anyway, let's get into the SAW Viper. We've got a lot to cover, and I know you want to get on with it. Oh, yes. Graphics. I did a little cheeky thing on this SAW Viper when I had the gun kind of overlap the V on Viper because I thought it looked cooler. So I did that. Anyway, yes, SAW Viper. Now, this is there's a lot of interesting history with this one. There's some fun kind of development history. Shout out to Dan Clean-Smith Jr. and his volume 4 actually of his books, which delves into the kind of presentation art, the development phase, kind of lots of bits of information regarding like the design and the creation of our vintage line, the beautiful G.I. Joe, A Real American Hero line. And in this volume 4, he does actually talk about the SAW Viper on one page here, which we will get into in a moment. I'll get into the details of that as well. So there's some good info in this one. If you do have this and you want to play along, get your book out. Anyway, we need Choco Dip Dial Tone and Outback. Stephen B, keeping it on track. Love it. Choco Chip Dial Tone and Outback. Yes, from the was it a cancelled Mobile Command Center? Were they going to be the Mobile Command Center figures, or am I thinking of something else? Kind of like a desert camo, wasn't it, on those figures? I might be thinking of something completely different. But yeah, I've seen those particular figures and that deco, and they actually wouldn't be bad. Considering we've got a Desert Snake Eyes, it wouldn't be a bad idea to do sort of like a Desert Dial Tone and a Desert Outback and so on and so forth. In those decos, that would be really cool. At the sound of the tone, turn the page. Exactly, Scott. It's one of those read along kind of situations. Anything, Joe's? Yeah, will you make a small chime when I'm supposed to turn the page? There's only one page, so I'll be making the sound once, or not at all, actually. Brilliant. Yeah, the 1998 headquarters. Thank you, Ed. I think you're right, actually. I think it was the headquarters. I'm thinking the Mobile Command Center, actually, I think probably even came out. I don't even know what I'm thinking of with that. But yeah, I think you're right. It was a headquarters, wasn't it? Anyway, choco chip aside, we're talking SAW Viper today. So McLeod, keep it locked. Don't get drawn into tangents so easily. Is what I should be saying, telling myself. But yes, as name only reveals go, we've got quite a few in the bag at the moment, but also quite a few nerns. That's new ones in Norfolk. Hey, got any nerns? No one will understand that unless you're from Norfolk in the United Kingdom. Hey, you got any nerns? So no one, everyone's like, what are you talking about? Right, so we've done pretty much everybody on here. Have I done Let's Talk Classified Alpine? I don't think I have. Have I done Let's Talk Classified Alpine? Could I get any higher pitched right now? I should have done, but he might have been one I've completely missed, or I've just forgotten that I've done him. Can someone let me know in the comments if I've done Let's Talk Classified Alpine? Because I can't remember. That's really embarrassing if I haven't, because obviously he's one that's on there that should have been done, and for some reason hasn't been. Unless he has been done, and I'm just being an idiot. I think I have done it. The more I think about it, the more I feel like I have done Let's Talk Classified Alpine, and I'm just being a fool. I can't see it on the videos though. Anyway, it's by the by, but I should, if I haven't already done so, do Alpine. I think I have done him though. What are we talking about today? SAW Viper, yes. Oh, maybe. Oh, that's why, because it wasn't a live video, was it? I haven't seen it. If you did, so likely not. How have I missed that? How have I missed Let's Talk Classified Alpine? What a moron. No, I have done. I have done Let's Talk Classified Alpine. You can go and check that out after this if you want, guys. But yeah, I did Let's Talk Classified Alpine 4 months ago. I am better than I thought I was in that case, which yeah, it's still a low bar, isn't it? Though, let's face it. Right, let's get back onto this. So yes, so the new ones that have kind of appeared that I need to do are Dial Tone, Below Torch, Road Pig, Frag Viper, and that's it, because we're doing SAW Viper today. So still got a few to do, coming up, which is great. It's good. It's more content, and I enjoy doing these videos. So there you go. SAW Viper today, highlighted. Just looked up on YouTube, said there's a video 4 months ago. Thank you, Rekship. Appreciate it. So those that have missed Let's Talk Classified Alpine, get on it, guys. I feel bad. I feel worse for you guys for not having seen it than for me forgetting to have done it completely. Right, let's do it. SAW Viper version 1. So this particular figure was released in 1990, and you may notice something immediately looking at that figure on card next to a weapon that is actually taller than him. The SAW stood for semi-automatic weapons, or semi-automatic weapons, as I would say. He came with a backpack, huge rifle, and we'll get onto why it's so bloody huge in a second, with removable bipod. See, I said it right this time. I keep getting my tripods and bipods mixed up, aren't I? And an ammo belt that fed the rifle from the backpack, fed to the rifle from the backpack. But you know what I'm talking about. Squad automatic weapon, says Liquid Identity. Was it squad? I thought it was semi or semi. It says semi on the file card, I want to say. Yeah, semi-automatic weapons, it says on the file card. Squad automatic weapon is what it actually means, though, correct? Yes? Yes. So semi-automatic weapon is what they assigned it to, and squad automatic is actually what it means. He came with the back, like I said, he came with those things, but look at the size of that weapon, Kitty said. It's absolutely ridiculous. Now, he was quite an interesting design as well, like quite an eye-catching deco of kind of like a very bright kind of like purpley pink, and then this kind of like very nice deep burgundy color, or kind of magenta. I don't know what you would really call that, but it's very nice kind of purpley red color that I really like. And that green visor really popped as well. And then lots of like other elements that are black on him, like a undershirt sort of situation, which we see better on there. And also, you know, like these weird little chaps which are on his legs, which I thought was quite an interesting, you know, design style to go with. But I really did like the look of the figure. I thought he looked really cool, and it was only really the gun that was a bit bonkers. And I mean, it happened a few times in the line, but we'll get to why right now. The reason the rifle was so large was due to an error by Dave Hassel, product designer, who submitted the wrong scale of the gun to production. The gun was actually at the scale that the 2-up or Paintmaster would be. And as you can see there on the right-hand side, we have presentation art by Dave Dorman. And interestingly enough, there was going to be an alternate name for it, or they were working under an alternate name of Claw Viper, which I don't remember the acronym there, but I think it was um, something light automatic weapons or something like that. But it was going to be a Claw Viper, but they decided against that, probably I would imagine because of the claw that had previously come before it, and they didn't want to kind of like confuse people. But I don't know the reason why they changed the name, other than maybe they thought Saw Viper was cooler sounding. And anywho, again, shout out again, this is all information from Dan Klingman Smith Jr.'s Creating GI Joe. This is volume 4, when it was called 3.75 Joe, the Special Forces team that forged an American hero. So that's really cool. And there are Cobra Claws later on in the early 2000s. Yes, there are Wreckship 85, well noticed. But like once you get past the vintage era, I think people stop caring so much about confusing people. Plus, it was probably a little bit of time passed for it not to be something that, you know, kind of confused consumers necessarily. And also, I would also expect that there would be a thing of like what's the word, copyright, or not copyright, trademark kind of situations where they might have gone, oh, we can't really call it what we want to call it, so let's call it something else, that'll do, boom. um there, yeah, we'll get into, sorry, we'll get into a little bit more about the Saw Viper, yes, in the comics, of course. But I just wanted to read out the Saw Viper file card for you guys. So Cobra Heavy Machine Gunner. And also it gives us a look at the file card, and we can compare it to the British one a bit later on. The Saw, or the UK and Europe one. The Saw Viper is equipped with a gyro-stabilized, cryogenically cooled mini chain gun, scoped with an infrared night vision auto-ranging optical sighting system. This means that he has a highly accurate, low malfunction machine gun that doesn't burn out the barrel during intense rapid fire bursts. It's nothing for him to zone in on a flea nestled in heavy brush over 800 yards away in pitch darkness and pick it off in one shot. Thing is, though, if you're unloading a machine gun like this guy's unloading, the flea's going to get decimated whether you hit it right where it is or 5 meters away from it, probably. Was this the first Purple Viper that was not a technician? Asks Scott. Yes. Can't think of any other techs in purple other than the Techno Viper. You definitely don't want to get pinned down by a Saw Viper at night or in the day. His weapon has an integral sound suppressor, an effective flash inhibitor, and a powerful image intensifier. With all that, you won't even know you're being shot at until you hear the sonic boom from the bullet whipping past your ear. Absolutely. Or if it's so good, I mean, you won't be whipping past your ear, will it? It will be tearing through both ears. Yas. Rock Viper wasn't purple. Anyway, so the Saw Viper, there is your file card for the Saw Viper. Now, the first version of the figure showed up in the Deke cartoon. Now, actually, the image I've utilized there is of Freefall in disguise, believe it or not. So that's in, I think, Granny Dearest, the episode. But that's the first appearance, actually, of the Saw Vipers, and they're actually depicted as army, you know, builders as opposed to one individual, which I haven't mentioned yet, but obviously that comes up in the comics. But for now, as we are aware so far, everything seems very army builder, troop builder sort of vibe, doesn't it? Nothing to suggest that the Saw Viper is an individual necessarily, but that will slightly, and not really change, but it will. The Saw Viper is obviously more famous for being an individual character than he is a number of nameless troops. So Yeah, so the first appearance actually came in that episode, Granny Dearest, but it did feature that they actually did feature in the new introduction following Operation Dragonfire. So that probably is the first appearance, technically, of a Saw Viper in the Deep cartoon. It would have been in episode 1 for the intro. But again, like I said, and they're running through they're running through the forest like comically being chased. But anyway, yeah, the Deep cartoon, they showed up kind of like periodically throughout the series, but that is the first appearance. And like I said, that is an image on the right hand side of Freefall in disguise as a Saw Viper. Now, in the comics, the Saw Viper was utilized completely differently by Marvel. And the first appearance was in 109. And basically, as you can see on the right hand side, the Saw Viper is huge. Now, the figure, that even though they were using the same bucks for the figures, some of them did look a little more hench than others. And the Saw Viper figure, you could argue, did have that kind of like bigger frame sort of look to them as an action figure. Could have just been the bulk of the gear, but there was more kind of hench to them anyway. Even not in like, again, like it's difficult in O-Ring because, I mean, they managed to do it with figures like Roadblock. Although the first Roadblock is a bit kind of spindly compared to some of the other Roadblocks. But because they're using that kind of like the same buck for all the figures, so it's quite difficult to kind of get a real different size going on. And it's not like he was like road pig sized or anything, but he did have that kind of like, I don't know, almost like he kind of came across as a hench kind of dude. And I would imagine as well the fact that the gun was so heavy and they're like almost like heavy gunners for the Cobra team, heavy machine gunners, that they'd have to be quite hench anyway. And that's what Marvel ended up deciding to do with the in the comics. They made this guy huge and very much a individual with personality. We won't say the name yet because the name doesn't actually appear in this period of time, as in his real name. That pops up later, and we will get to that later on in the timeline. So, the Saw Viper in this particular story is told to take care of the Joe hostages. And due to a mix up between the twins and Cobra Commander, he ends up executing a number of them before the survivors get the upper hand. And this is one of those kind of period. This is that kind of like when you're reading this for the first time, it is actually quite impactful. And I thought this was like almost like Battle Action Force levels of brutal. The only thing you don't see in this is the way that it's done. You don't really see the blood, gore, and all that kind of stuff, but it is very brutal, and it is very like, like Doc getting mowed down like point blank by this machine gun is like, whew. And then this image will haunt me for the rest of my life, where the rat ta 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 ta, and they're all in like this kind of like glow, this orange glow of like, what the kind of like the muzzle flash is almost lighting them up that way. Do you know what I mean? And it's awful, and it's, obviously you've got, I think, is it Crankcase, Thunder, Heavy Metal all getting kind of taken out. And some of the Joes are obviously shielded by the kind of heroics from those guys. And they end up kind of taking the upper hand, and Falcon ends up throwing a dagger and hitting the Saw Viper in the chest. He gets knocked back, and then that allows the Joes to kind of like gain an advantage and get back on top. And but the Saw Viper escapes. He survives the Joes' escape, and he continues to pursue them across, where are we, Trucial Abysmia. And which I will say now as well, at this stage the Joes shouldn't be there. They're like, as a political nightmare basically. If they're there illegally basically, and due to the fact that Cobra occupy, is it Benzene as well, they have obviously got this kind of like stranglehold on the region, and obviously the Joes can't be there anymore. It's like illegal for them to be there. So the Saw Viper is basically pursuing the rest of the Joes, but Duke ends up getting the drop on him. And it's one of these kind of moments in G.I. Joe, and especially in the comics and the way Larry wrote the comics, and sort of the feeling of a real American hero and G.I. Joe kind of, as it always has been, where they're the good guys and they won't cross that line. They're often, in those kind of situations where in a lot of comics, we've seen say like Batman, for example, where Batman has been like made to cross that line. Superman as well has made cross that line a few times in recent history, where they're supposed to not cross that line, and but they've kind of been tested and challenged a little bit to do that in recent kind of recent memory. With the Joes and the way Larry writes it, he very rarely, or I can't think of a moment in the kind of run where they cross that line necessarily. Um, or you might let me know in the comments if I am forgetting something, because I often do. But yeah, it's kind of like this kind of like unwritten rule almost with Joe, where they do not cross that line. And in this particular case, he's reaching for his gun. Duke says, "Just go for it, because if you go for it and grab it, I'm gonna take you out." And the Saw Viper realizes that he's clever, and he says, "Well, I'm not going to do it. I'm unarmed. You're not going to shoot me. We're in Trucial Abysmia. You're here illegally. You can't do anything. Yada yada yada." So Duke they says that, "Yeah, you're right. Let's just go and get out of here." And they leave him. So it's like he gets that that kind of very fortunate break, and he kind of stays alive. But for how long? Well, that's a good question, because as it will continue on, I'm going to have to pose that question to you guys when we cover something else in the comics later. Now, despite being upset with the Saw Viper initially, Cobra Commander changes his mind and throws him a party for his actions. Classic Cobra Commander. After the Saw Viper starts to get a bit like testy with the questions and the I suppose the kind of like like Cobra Commander was very upset at first because of the trouble that he's caused him, etc., etc., and the fact that the Joes would be on a rampage looking for them and all this kind of stuff and seeking revenge, which kind of is and isn't the case. But that's what Cobra Commander thinks is going to happen. And the Saw Viper, kind of like a bit annoyed by that, spins round and has a go at them all and says, like, I've not got time for this. I don't want to. I've just taken out more Joes than you've ever done in like whatever. And that kind of like makes Cobra Commander go like, okay, well, let's throw him a party. Let's calm him down a little bit. So yeah, so he ends up getting a party basically. Now, Ninja Force show up to recce the situation, but obviously they must remain silent. They can't kind of make it clear that they're there, because they'll obviously, like I said, they'll be in political trouble. So they've been sent in to be silent, to scout, to get information, and to report back. But then effectively things escalate, and the Ninja Force are forced to show their hand, because they're about to kind of connect with a bunch of night creepers, and there's obviously another team in play at the moment, kind of viewing, like looking at what their progress is, and that's kind of like sneak peeks, having a look. And I think Stalker's down there, and Cool Breeze, who's a new character, and they're kind of keeping an eye on this whole situation from afar. Now the problem is, they have to kind of let Ninja Force know that they're about to be tackling a bunch of night creepers, and to keep it quiet, and they have to break radio silence, and they do that, and then that forces the team that are kind of watching to kind of come out of hiding, because of the kind of radio frequency kind of break would have alerted Cobra. It does also alert, I think the twins end up getting alerted. But what is interesting about that is that they're just like, well, we'll keep an eye on it, but we don't think it's anything too severe. So they probably could have gotten away with it, but they have to reveal their hand anyway, and they have to kind of make it clear that they're there to take the eyes off the Ninja Force guys, because they want to protect them. So anyway, that's all going on in the background. The Saw Viper is alerted to the fact that there are Joes kind of in the area because of that, and then he goes out in a helicopter, and ends up kind of in like a battle with Storm Shadow and Snake Eyes. But it stops here. This is all we see. And I always thought that it was a little odd that in the comic, this stops. We don't see anything after this. We don't see a battle. Saw Viper kind of like, is taken out off panel basically, or we don't know what's happened effectively. We just don't know. It's just from the insinuation later on in the issue, right at the end actually, where Snake Eyes throws the Saw Viper's machine gun down, and Storm Shadow insinuates that, yeah, we we got a little bit of payback for what it's worth, sort of thing. And that I always think was a little bit not like disappointing, like unsatisfying, maybe. Not, it wasn't a very satisfying conclusion for me. Like, no, I don't, I'm not, again, I don't need to see someone brutally murdered, but I think there should have been a story there, visually at least, of what happened between Snake Eyes, Storm Shadow, and the Saw Viper. But anyway, anywho, that happens off panel, and we are to assume that the Saw Viper is dead. That's just what we have to assume, right? Now, we'll come back to this at some point, but that is the overarching story with the individual personality that was that particular Saw Viper. I can't remember. I can't. Yeah, Chris needs blood. I need to see it. I can't remember how often we see Saw Vipers in the comics following that. I'm sure they show up here, there, and everywhere, but I just can't think of any examples where they show up a lot. Again, in the comments, please let me know. That would be great. Oh, you guys are talking about, okay, yeah. Carl the Fifth said the good guys never kill on panel because kids show rule. Yeah, that's a good point, Carl. Yeah. I what I mean is there wasn't even a battle or something where it would be like, they tried to say, like how they're in a helicopter. Could have been the trope would be that there's a fight, they get the upper hand, he falls off, or he's about to fall out of the helicopter, and they grab him and they save him, and he's got a gun and he's going to shoot them to kill all of them, and then they just have to let go of him and he falls to his death, something like that. But you don't know. You could have done it so that something happened where it was like unclear, but of like the money would be on him, not making it. But this was almost like, they're really leaving it open for not even for interpretation, but they're leaving it open for maybe some sort of return, and there kind of is later on. Maybe just fell into a coma. I like that. Yes, Ryan, you're right. Saw it on the cover of 130 with Heat and Frag and Cobra Commander Vades the Pit. Yes, thank you very much, Ryan. So Saw Vipers we use then, absolutely. Salt of the Pit, thank you, Ed's got it as well. In fact, yeah, Ed said it first, but I didn't see your comment first. Sorry, Ed. And specifically, the six-man team sent to the castle in Transcarpathia in issue 121. So yeah, cool. We do see them quite often. That's good. I knew we saw them. I just couldn't think of any particular moments in the comics where they stand out to me. Did the Saw Viper show up in the Deke series? Yes, FC Viper. They did. I've already talked about that. Look, I'll prove it to you. There you go. I saw a Viper's Deke. Anyway, yeah, and that's also, I was saying before, that is Freefall in a Saw Viper costume. But yes, they did show up in the Deke cartoon. Anyway, that's a real American hero, and that's the Saw Viper in that. Now, let's jump forward a little bit to the UK and Europe's release of the Saw Viper. Now, we got this twice. We got it in 1992 and we got it in 1993. And this is quite interesting because we've got some nice little kind of bits of information on this one. So like I said, we got two completely different card backs as well, which is really interesting. So the first version came out in 1992 on this card that you're looking at right now, same accessories and everything. Now, I will also say that the image you're going to see next, it does not depict the correct rifle, but as you can see on card there, you can see the differences in the card as well to the ones you guys had. It was the G.I. Joe logo only, had that Cobra kind of fancy Cobra logo. The card is like a black to red phase from bottom right to top left. So black, 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 and then phasing into red for the Cobras. And I think it was, it might have been red for the Joes as well, actually. That might be, I can't even think off the top of my head what color cards they had. But then obviously they had that kind of very distinct explosion that was slightly different to the original explosion on the US cards, but this was the explosion we were using because we used the digital one first on a lot of our Hasbro related figures, and then we started using this in like the 90s. Yes, so we got that one, and like I said, this image now, don't everyone jump in at once. It's not the correct rifle, but what is interesting about this rifle is that this, I think, is with the Cobra Claws figure in like the 2000s, which is quite interesting because someone mentioned that earlier on when we were talking about this being the Claw Viper as an alternate name originally, which is again nice little bit of kind of connectivity there. But this is a Sound Attack version, like a retool of that original rifle, which is quite interesting, I think. But anyway, that figure is holding that one. That's not the one we got in the UK, by the way. Please, I should have changed the image, but that is the UK figure with a different rifle. So just so you're aware. And like I said, I will make it. I will. Yeah, they did find a way to make it even bigger. They made it Sound Attack, just to make it very clear. There you can see the rifle that he came with was clearly the original one with the sight on the top. Okay, cool. Then we have the file card. Now, as you can see, the only changes really here are the trademark's been removed, and the semi-automatic weapons element has been taken out of it. So that's pretty much it. Obviously, the art is further away. It's not like the US card is much closer up, and the logo is different. That's pretty much it. The actual content is the same. So nothing to see here on that particular file card, other than I wanted you to see it. We also, of course, as I was mentioning, we got a second release. Now, this one is slightly different. Look at that. So this is UK and Europe. And this is 93. Now, the different card art that you see on there was done to reflect the included Incinerator's catapult launcher, projectile discs, and the flamethrower that he came with. So the gun's gone, the backpack's gone, and the ammo belt has gone. And effectively, he just gets what the Incinerator's figure had, which was, I think it was the same. There might have been different deco, like a different color plastic and everything. I can't remember off the top of my head. But yeah, they literally gave him this like pizza thrower instead. A catapult, no less, as well. Hilarious. But it's on that kind of similar card, a bit taller, because it's, you know, they did those cards a little taller. Yes, whoever the artist is, he did a bunch of Euro card art, and I just love his style, says Paul. Yes, there's so much Euro card art like this. And for a lot, his stuff seemed to be a lot of like, there was this one, there was God, I've just forgotten them all immediately. There's a bunch of these kind of this kind of period where they were re-released on different cards. What's his name? Oh my God, Captain Gridiron is another one that he did. So yeah, he did Captain Gridiron, Saw Viper, or Saw Adder, as is known on that particular. That's the German card, I think. Is Wappenschied Echt? Yeah, that is the German one, I think. Or like, it's kind of like a couple nom de code as well. Yeah, it's a couple, so it would cover effectively Europe probably. But yes, a lot of Euro card art is done by this artist, and he's done some absolute bangers, and it's all very like, it's a lot more simple than the kind of more. It's still painterly, but it's like almost like a bit more kind of brush strokes, isn't it? And I really enjoy that. It's really cool. Yeah, there's another one, isn't there, that I just forgot then? Might be Frag Viper. Actually, there's another one that has they've had all their weapons taken away, and they're just standing on the front with their fists. Night Creeper's another one he did. Yeah, Angular is a good shout. Yes, thank you, Paul. It is very angular. It doesn't say that RKW. It says something similar to that. Anyway, but that is the card for that particular figure. And like I said, these were the accessories that he got. Looks kind of different, doesn't it? I kind of feel like he's definitely missing something, not having the backpack, not having the gigantic gun that is actually taller than him. But they did give him all of this stuff to play around with, so that's quite funny. Anyway, there you go. And I think, yes, we do have the card a bit more close with the card art as well there for Paul, who was enjoying that card art as well, of the Saw Viper there. And again, the card is pretty much identical to the one we just saw on the other one. It's just the artwork has changed, and that's it, which is cool. So there you go. I love the depth that this brand has in terms of artwork, and I would love as in depth as Carson did with the 3D Joe's kind of coffee table book. I would love that sort of depth thrown towards the Fun School artwork towards, not whether you think it's bad or whatever. I love it, and I want to see it in like some sort of collected edition. The same with the UK artwork and everything. I want to see and the European artwork where it's different, where there's like exclusivity and stuff. I want to see that. Like, I want all of it documented. Basically, I wonder if, in fact, I wonder if Carson's ever going to do something like that, because that would be really cool, actually, like a 3D Joe's International Heroes sort of thing. You know, all the South American stuff. I mean, there's so much beautiful artwork out there. Excuse me. Excuse me. But yeah, absolutely wonderful. I know there's some of it in the book, and I know there's some of it in Carson's work, but I'd love like a full, like the full-on encyclopedia of it. In fact, I say that, but I've got a wonderful Spanish set of books with the card art and everything in it as well, thanks to the wonderful Spanish crew who put that wonderful book series together, which is in the UK. So it's one of those things I have to have visitation rights for. It's like an 8-volume set. It's gorgeous, hardback as well, in a huge box, kind of like, oh, it's just phenomenal. Love that set. So they've done it for Spain. We just need it for every other every other country that had GI Joe in it. Anyway, let's move on to 2003. Big jump, actually, right? From like 93 to 2003. What's that, like a million years? SAW Viper version 2. Now, the second version of the figure joined the Python Patrol in a true exclusive 6-pack, as you can see on screen there. The sub-team featured a brand new deco scheme that matched the original Python Patrol vehicles. So, well, actually, I say with the exception of the SAW Viper, but it is on the SAW Viper. It's just the SAW Viper has this like prominent red and shiny gold legs scenario, which does make him stick out a bit from the rest of the team, who have a more balanced deco that kind of is more uniform across the team. But when you look at the figure, boom, look at that shiny goblin. Absolutely amazing. They kept the massive weapon, Kitty said, the backpack, the ammo belt, and they just went absolute ham on the awesome deco for this one. And this will pop up a bit later on when we talk about classified SAW Vipers for obvious reasons. But I really enjoyed this this kind of foray into Python Patrol, and that's that 6-pack, that true 6-pack with Major Blood, with Lampreys, with Rock Viper, with the SAW Viper, obviously with the Laser Viper, and with one other that I'm forgetting. I should be able to read, but I can't read. Saw Heat and the Heat Viper. Of course it was. Those kind of additions really kind of, I really liked that. And I thought it was really cool to get like an extra Python Patrol kind of team together. The only kind of situation you're dealing with here is that you've got like 2 Python Patrols at the end of the day. So maybe there is a future kind of target sort of theme where they can keep the Python Patrol going, but it just changes to this deco. So you end up you've got all your Python Patrol over here that are all complete, check, and then you've got, your next wave of Python Patrol with this new black and red and gold sort of combination. And I think that would be really cool and would be a lovely way to kind of keep things kind of moving with that Target exclusive range. Yeah, and Alpine with the shorts, of course, for the Tiger Force. Yeah. Oh yeah, I have to agree with that, Paul. Not a fan of the branding or packaging era with this line, and I have to agree with you. It wasn't the best. Um, but even I think at the time I was just excited to get action figures. So you don't really delve into it as deep. But when it starts moving through and you start getting better versions of packaging and so on and so forth, and of course you've got the previous vintage era, which is just phenomenal packaging. It does a little bit it does stand out a bit, doesn't it? Definitely. But the figure, beautiful. And I would be all over this to see the SAW Viper again. But again, we'll talk about that when we get there. Now, that brings us in the timeline, because we're still in 2003, to the Devil's Due era of the comics. Now, like I said, 2003, in the A Real American Hero Volume 2, issue number 24, the same SAW Viper we had presumed dead from the Marvel run turns up again as Robert Skelton. So this is the first time we hear the name. So it was kind of clearly the writers were utilizing. Was it Brandon Jower on this one? I think were utilizing. I might be wrong on that. Who was the writer for this particular issue? I should have done the research, and did not dawn on me to think about that. But in any case, they basically utilized the fact that there wasn't a clear fate for the Saw Viper in issue 113, was it? I think he passed away in. So there wasn't a clear fate for that figure, for that character. So they utilized that by kind of making Robert Skelton this guy that escaped from Storm Shadow and Snake Eyes in that helicopter, and had basically been a mercenary, like a freelance mercenary, for like the entire time since he'd been presumed dead to now. Now, Serpentor recruits him for the Coil during the Second Cobra Civil War, and he decides to choose the name Overkill. And the reason that that happens, kind of foreshadowing a little bit, really, is so that he can basically become Overkill, because he ends up getting seriously injured. He gets shot in the back by Kamakura, which again you could argue is a little bit. I think it's Brandon Jower. You could argue that that is a little bit cowardly for a Joe, but I mean he's like throttling, Duke, and they're having this kind of uh, like final battle, and they're recalling the fact that you know they know each other and all this kind of stuff. So there was a nice kind of like moment there where Duke's like, oh, Trucial Abysmia and everything, and they have this big fight and everything. Anyway, Kamakura shoots him in the back, and he's not dead, but he does get gravely injured, seriously injured. So they have to rebuild him as a cyborg. And there's this really dark kind of period in this comic where he is kind of being like experimented on, and he keeps trying to like fight his way out, and they keep kind of like suppressing him and all this kind of stuff. But it's really messed up. He's got like no jaw. He's got like, because they're putting all these like kind of like different like pieces and parts on him and stuff, and they even decide to cut one of his arms off and put like a gun on it and all that kind of stuff. It's really dark. Anyway, he shows up in a few more issues until a showdown with Snake Eyes nearly kills him. Now, there's the shot of Overkill in his kind of like new gear, and obviously we had figures at the time that kind of looked very similar to this. So there were a lot of kind of action figures coming out around the same period of time for Overkill that looked like this one, and of course Saw Viper, which we'll get onto in a second. But what is interesting is that we get this kind of moment where Snake Eyes is literally on the brink of taking him out, and instead of killing him, he leaves him crying, and like he's like wants to die because he's this kind of like grotesque, you know cyborg now, and he doesn't want to live anymore. And obviously the punishment that Snake Eyes feels befitting is by not ending his life, and he just like sticks the knife in the ground next to his head, and he's all like, oh, what? And then the twins are there, and the whole the Cobra team are going to capture them all. But that's by the by. We're only interested right now about Skelton. Now, the funny thing is, we don't see him again, so we don't know if he does pass away, if they rebuild him, if whatever happens, we don't know, because it wasn't too long after that they finished the kind of run, and we had that Red Shadows sort of kind of storyline that kind of finished it off, and then that was it. It was and since then it's been disavowed, so you can kind of take this out of your kind of canon. But that leads me to the question, what do you guys think? And I'd like to know in the comments here. I know I haven't been paying attention to a lot of the comments. Sorry, I have been kind of keeping an eye on it, but I know a lot of you are talking to each other, which is great, and that's totally awesome. Go for it. And I will read that one out. Timber should have gnawed his balls off, and I agree, RKW. Snake Eyes won't kill him, but he doesn't have to save him, exactly. I mean, I think Snake Eyes knows exactly what he's doing here. It would be putting him out of his misery, but obviously by not doing it, it prolongs that misery, and that is like he feels like that's torture enough, or to some degree, for what's the word? For the what he did in Trucial Abysmia. The early Blaylock, yeah, you're right, it was Blaylock, wasn't it? And Brandon Jerwood did America's Elite. Is that correct? Or maybe he might have worked on some issues of this as well. I can't remember, and I feel bad, so I will just stop guessing and say at this point you can find that out. It's pretty easy. So, like I said, we kind of finished there, and we don't hear from Overkill again. And I wasn't going to do Let's Talk Overkill, Let's Talk Classified Overkill. That's another episode for another day when we get a name only reveal, isn't it? But for now, we are back to the SAW Viper, and it's 2006 now, and version 3 is released. Now, this one is interesting, I think. I think what happened with a lot of these kind of figures. Now, it's all right. It's an all right figure. It's not like anything special, I would say, and I wouldn't say it's anything crazy because it's not like we're getting anything brand spanking new other than the helmet, I think. But like, and this was the first removable helmet for the SAW Viper, so you got to give it that. But this DTC line, the direct to consumer line, we got this SAW Viper. Now he's a bit of a kit bash of multiple parts from other figures, and gave him a way more tactical and subdued deco scheme. Let's face it, tactical look and a subdued deco scheme. What do you guys think of this figure? Are you fans of this one? But oh yeah, sorry, I didn't ask the question before, did I? Do you think that the SAW Viper that killed all those Joes in Trucial Abysmia is dead or alive? Let me know in the comments. So yeah, let me know what you think. Do you think that the SAW Viper that that obviously the Robert Skelton situation, because it's not canon anymore, that kind of reverts us back to what happened in the Marvel issues for me? And I don't think we've seen anything from Larry in the later A Real American Hero, have we, for this particular guy, this particular SAW Viper? So what do you think? Do you think he is now done? Are you happy to say he's dead and he won't be returning ever again? Because I don't. Without a corpse, alive, says Pastor Pierogi. I like that. Yeah, no proof until we have proof. Yeah, exactly. So anyway, back to while you're thinking about that, while you guys are making a decision on whether you think Robert Skelton, we'll call him, is alive or dead, I'm going to continue with this. So, like I said, the SAW Viper version 3, not one that's going to blow your socks off, but yeah, is all right. It's okay. But like I said, removable helmet, pretty cool. But the fact that he shares a head sculpt with, like, I can't even remember who it is now. He should share a head sculpt with another figure. It's a little bit like it. Yes, it's a SAW Viper, but it isn't a SAW Viper. I would have expected actually them to do something that looked very much like that one, kind of like all black almost, sort of like a plague SAW Viper. Do you know what I mean? Anyway, this one does look too much like Scrap Iron. Actually, I agree with that. Yeah, no one ever dies. Off-panel deaths are Chekhov's gun retcons. He's alive. I mean, look how Fast and Furious handles their deaths. Lol, indeed. He became the Skybound Cobra Commander, says Stygian. Amazing. That good shout. We saw bodies in the shipping containers, so we know people like Raptor were done, but SAW is alive. I like that one. Paul says this is when they started to downplay the original triangular elements of his helmet design and make it look more generic goggles, like the original design on the card art, much better. Yeah, me too, actually, Paul. It's a cool helmet with a big visor, but it's only really the green bit that screams SAW Viper, isn't it? Let's face it. I would like to see a little bit more, kind of like that original kind of design. In fact, I've got to say, and I'm going to go back to this design as being a really cool one that I could see working for Classified, that one. I think that's phenomenal. And I think this is a really cool way to go if they're going to go any direction. I think it'd be cool to go this direction. Marvel Comics, that panel specifically, I think he looks phenomenal. Have the strap hanging down, have the, what is another funny thing? I don't think I've ever seen so many characters smoking in a G.I. Joe issue or series of issues than I did in this one. And I'm telling you now, Not only is the Saw Viper having a ciggy, but look at, where is it? It's coming up. He's having another one there. He's coming up. Where is it? There, look at that. The twins. Tokens and bifters really getting into the cigarettes there, aren't they? The twins. They look absolutely done, don't they? Have they been drawn drunk or have they been drawn depressed or both? Like they look absolutely hammered, don't they, in that panel? Anyway, that's my jokey part of the episode out of the way. I've never seen so many characters smoking in a comic than I have with this period of time with the Saw Viper. Anyway, smoking cigarettes or smoking from the holes in their bodies, bit of both. Yeah, there could be. They could just be like, yeah. What is the SAW acronym again, Sir Stanley? So the SAW acronym for the figure is semi-automatic weapon, or semi-automatic weapon, as the Americans say. And I think in reality, it's squad automatic weapons, but they changed it. I don't know why. Probably because there's only one of them. But you know, squad automatic weapons would have made sense. I don't know really. The Joes should have been smoking since they'd been out of fudgy bars. Indeed. Question, Chris. Will Raptor include a raptor as a pet? If so, I'm favouring Phil as his name. That's genius. If Raptor doesn't come with a raptor, if it doesn't come with a falcon, I will cry. I mean, it has to. It has to. He is SDCC, if I'm not mistaken. So he'll be an SDCC exclusive. So they don't have to say figure and pet, do they? They just have to say deluxe. And I imagine that part of that deluxe, outline of stuff will involve a pet, or I don't know, maybe multiples. I mean, he has to have more than one, doesn't he? He's Raptor, for goodness sake. But anyway, Phil, I'll take that. Yeah, we'll go with Phil as one of them. Talon was actually the name of Raptor's falcon originally, or bird of prey. Talon, and that's on this side of the card as well. So that is vintage accurate. Now, it'd be epic if Hasbro just used that image for the box art, lift it straight from the comic, fine, erase the cigarette. Yeah, they'd have to. But also, yeah, I think doing something in that style, that kind of like that angle, that kind of pose, I think would be perfect for the artwork because the gun's up, right? So you get to see it in the shot. Whereas it's always difficult for them like posing with it because it's going to be out of the shot a lot of the time. They do struggle with the kind of angles, the way they have to do the artwork. And I think that artwork is nice, almost perfect for a sliver on the side of a box. So I'd have to agree with that. Doing something at least that homages that panel, I think, would be absolutely phenomenal. Road Pig question. Will the pet be themed for the Sonic Fighters and OG? Will pet be included with all Road Pig offerings? So Stanley, it's not a Sonic Fighters Road Pig, is my answer to that. The pet, I can't talk about the pet. All I can say is that he comes with a pet, and I don't know. I don't know if he'll come with all. I mean, that's information I just wouldn't be privy to or have. So unfortunately, I can't answer all of those questions, but I can tell you that it's not Sonic Fighters Road Pig. Vape, yeah, you could have a vape, couldn't he? Give Raptor a parakeet, hilarious, or an owl. Give him an owl. Right. Yes. Anyway, so that's version 3. Not, like I said, not the greatest Saw Viper figure in the world, but it's part of the history of the figure. Now, version 4, well, let's wait another chunk of time. 2013, and the Jocon Nocturnal Fire box set, which featured 3 Saw Vipers in the box set, as well as Charbroil version 5, Cobra Letal, Cobra Mortal version 2, Crimson Asp, Hit and Run version 3, Muskrat version 4, Psych Out version 4, Repeater version 4, Spearhead version 3, and the 3 Frag Vipers version 3 as well. So pretty cool set this. I actually really enjoyed this box set. I really was a massive fan of that Repeater figure as well, and just genuinely loved the sub-team box sets they used to do, so much so. Spearhead was really cool as well, actually, with that in that set. Really, really dug what they did with these. Also, Hit and Run and Muskrat. They were all great. I loved all of them. Um, a crystal ball will come with Harry Potter's owl. Amazing. Yeah. Cobra's smoking, no problem. I just found it funny that I've never seen so much smoking going on in a comic before than I did in that particular group of issues. Like everyone was like just on it, like massively stressed. Anyway, Saw Viper version 4, 2013, and now we had I love this version of the figure, by the way. I thought it was wicked. So we had like a balaclava head underneath with a removable helmet. We had this crazy chunky secondary, which I can't remember. I think it's not Beachheads, is it? I can't remember who comes with that secondary originally. Firefly, maybe? Who came with that secondary, guys? I've completely forgotten. Let me know in the comments, please. Was it that Beachhead figure? I just remember them having. I remember having like the flippers on the back as well of the. But anyway, it's awesome, and like the little walkie-talkie on there is really cool. Oh, it's Destro. Thank you, Ed. Um, I don't know. I just really love this version, this design. The deco's gorgeous. They kind of updated the legs a little bit, so he's not wearing those kind of weird like chaps. But I still think I'd like to see that on the classified figure. I'd like to see them do something like that, and make it make sense and look good. But definitely think that should be incorporated into the figure. And then, of course, yeah, really like a heavy machine gun, which is nice, and the backpack as well. So they it was a decent figure, came with some good gear, and also really like it was just it's just solid build on this one. Now, here's a couple of shots of it in different kind of poses and what have you, just to kind of see it from all angles. There's the balaclava head. He's got his knives out as well. There's a massive. This particular balaclava gives me Eastern European Special Forces vibes. I'm not sure if anyone else gets that kind of vibe, but there's definitely that kind of feeling with um, with this particular usage of this balaclava, and I think that would be a really good idea to go with. But we'll get to that in a second. Let's continue going through this. Then we get version 5 in 2016, part of the Cobra Legion's 50th anniversary 3-pack with the Cobra Bat version 11 and the Cobra Officer version 5, female Cobra Officer. The figure utilized some of the parts of the previous release, but got a slight rebuild and a much lighter purple deco. And it was a much brighter purple, wasn't it? Look at that. Bosh. And they changed the visor to kind of this gold visor as well, which I thought was quite interesting. And again, there's difference here. Like it utilized some of the parts of the previous release, but got a slight rebuild as well. Like I believe the legs are different as well. I believe the secondary is different. The arms, I want to say, are probably different too. Oh no, the arms are the same. I think it's just that the legs are different. I think. And yeah, and the secondary is different too. And of course, they gave him another machine. They gave him a couple of machine guns, including that crazy big Marduce one as well, which is nuts. Yeah, and then obviously we've got some shots of this one as well, doing lots of different poses. Very awesome. And there he is doing the Eastern European Special Forces maneuver again. And then we get version 6. Now, this was released in the 2018 JoeCon Python Peril exclusives as a Troop Builder 3-pack. So this one came separate to the box set, and they gave him the massive rifle. I think that's quite funny, honestly. I'm really glad that the rifle kind of came back to homage that original Python Patrol one. And they kind of took some liberties with the deco, the legs, and obviously completely different to what we saw on that previous version. But again, kind of a nice design and a nice deco. And I love the fact they gave him the massive rifle. It's hilarious. Absolutely hilarious. It was a repaint of the previous version 5. And again, I can't remember if they changed the secondary on it. It might be the same secondary. I can't recall. But they gave him the green visor this time as well, which is nice too. So that's nice. And there he is. That's actually that's one of the 3. You can see the second one next to him. That's my actual personal ones. Finally, an image that I own of my own, not stealing someone else's for the show. But again, I really like these, and I love the fact the Python Patrol logo is on the helmet. Kitty said, and yeah, I think it's cool. And I kind of dig the rifle on a bigger figure. I think for the 4-inch figure, it's kind of fun to have a rifle that large. It's great because I mean, there's that 50 cal sniper rifle. I've got a friend of mine was in the forces, and he took a pic. He got a friend to take a picture of him holding it, and the thing is bigger than that. Like it looks. He looks like a child holding his like the biggest rifle that they do, and he's not a tall. He's not a small person. Um, yes. So that is, I think that's pretty much that's all the versions of the Saw Viper version 6. So sorry, of the Saw Viper. That's the sixth version and all of them. The barrel is a beast. It really is. Well, the Barrett is a beast. Yes, the 50 cal sniper rifle. It's ridiculous. Yeah, so let's talk. Let's talk classified Saw Viper. Now, I think I'm going to go through this in little stages. So obviously, the first stage will look at the first version per se, homage of the character. Now it's going to be this version. It's not going to be the Python Patrol version. We know that much. So with this particular version, what are we looking at? Are we looking at this kind of pink kind of vibe, or are we looking at a more subdued version of it on the right hand side? I would imagine that with the classified series, they're going to subdue the colors a slight amount. So it will probably look closer to the one on the right hand side. But I do imagine them to go a bit nuts on the design, maybe give them some new elements like secondaries, the new legs, maybe with those kind of chaps, kind of like reverse chaps, aren't they? I don't even know what to call them, but they are kind of like weird leggings and stuff. Anyway, you could do that obviously with this particular figure. Of course, I totally expect a removable helmet. Now, that brings us to the question: do we go balaclava head sculpt, or do we try some sort of Robert Skelton sort of situation where we've got the guy from the Devil's Due? I know it's been disavowed, but it doesn't mean you can't utilize it or use him as an idea for an alternate head. And the fact that we're getting alternate heads in a cyborg head, nice one, RKW. The fact that we're getting alternate heads in standard retail figures, which I think this one is going to be, then I would suggest, again, I'm kind of basing this all on that premise, honestly. I would expect to see at least an alternate head or a removable helmet. Now, if you do a balaclava head, it's so much easier to do a removable helmet. So I think that's probably where we're going to go with it. You could, yeah, the 3-hole balaclava might appear a little bit too much there, Liquid Identity. I could see that. I could see them just doing a regular balaclava head or reusing a balaclava that we've already had in the line and just doing it black and then having the the helmet, kind of removable helmet, kind of go on top. I could see that too. I could also see them doing a regular head, like or like so that you could have that face exposed situation as well, or instead of, because the original Saw Viper that we were just absolutely drooling over on that Marvel artwork panel, he doesn't have a balaclava on. So I would say that I'm kind of easy both ways. Kitty said I'd quite happily have the balaclava or the exposed face, and I'm not too fussed. And then you could go, give him the kind of mohawk that the Robert Skelton from Devil's Due publishing had, and yeah, and really go, Ed wants an exposed mouth area, you dirtbag, like the Aero Viper. Yeah, that's a good idea actually. But yeah, I think that is that kind of point where no one's really going to know until it comes out, and you'll be like, that's what they've gone with. I don't think we're going to get an alternate head, a balaclava head, and a removable helmet. I think that would be taking the absolute Michael. They could do 2 heads, one with a helmet on and one, without, and the one with the helmet could have the balaclava on it. I don't know. It's hard, isn't it? There's multiple options they could go with here, but I think personally, I'd like to see a head sculpt for the figure, even though it's a troop builder, but you pop the helmet on and it doesn't matter anymore. The only other thing with that is you could get away with doing a kind of like, well, I suppose you could do a 3-pack of them at some point and do like different skin tones, couldn't you? That's something you could possibly do with the silver. I'm just thinking about the kind of, getting like, black or Hispanic or, any other kind of skin tone going on there. I think would be really cool. Um, Multiple skin tone heads would work, Ryan. Yeah, they'd have to do something like they'd have to do like up to the neck would have to be like yeah, like black or something, wouldn't it? As in like the black shirt that they're wearing would have to kind of continue up, almost like an Archer style turtleneck. Yeah, that'd be awesome. I don't know. There's lots of things you could do with this one, with the heads, and I think that's what makes it quite difficult to predict. I'd like to see the helmet follow a lot closer than to the original figure than the new one. I think I would have to go like with what Paul was saying in the comments earlier. I like the angular version is quite cool as well on the card art. But I think the original figure is fine with me. Fine for me. I think that's absolutely awesome, that version of it, and I'd go with that one 100%. Now let's talk about. Well, obviously we've got this option as well, haven't we, as a repaint? So they could delve into this at some stage. I think the main repaint, though, battle damaged head just to annoy Pat, says Mark. Actually, that's genius. They could go this route, but I think the main repaint route we're going to go with the SAW Viper is more likely Python Patrol. And even though I popped this in here just as like this is a possibility for a repaint. I don't know, it wouldn't necessarily be a vintage card, retro card back. So maybe we get this deco first. I don't know. I think I'm not that keen on this deco. I don't think it really necessarily evokes SAW Viper to me. This one 100% does. And I think this is where I think they should stay. Even if they're doing this version and a retro version, which I don't think they necessarily will. But I think doing this version and then a Python Patrol would be more than enough for the SAW Viper. And obviously this is what we have for the Python SAW Viper. And again, like just you can either go with the vintage one and go like redonkulous with the gold, or you could go a little bit more tactical and practical, like the later version in 2018. Did I say, was it 2018 one? 2018, yeah, 2018. So that's what I would say in terms of kind of redecos. Now, the other thing I haven't mentioned is the gigantic weapon. What do you guys think here? Because I think you could probably get away with giving him, obviously, the backpack, the ammo clip. We've got things like that in the line already. So it may be something new in terms of backpack. But in terms of the bullet belt, we've got plenty of bullet belts to use. So I don't think they necessarily have to do something new there. What would they do with the rifle? I would like them to do something similar, honestly, than to the vintage one. Not the same, not like taller than the figure, because that's stupid, but like make it make sense. But I think the size of it could be quite cool, like that shape, that design. I love the design. I think it's really cool. And maybe even they could give him another rifle that we see on the original card art. Excuse me. That, and I'm going to have to go back a lot here to show that. But, that's why I make slideshows, so that we can do this. Excuse me. So maybe we could get some sort of machine gun like that, that obviously is completely different and smaller and looks nothing like the original one, though the actual one that he has. But I would say I would like to see that rifle, the big one, but done in like a more, reasonable size. So yeah, I'd like to see it scaled down a little bit, a touch, but still make it quite hefty. And then I'd like to see what would I like to see then? Obviously, like, you can throw in some other things here. Like, I love the fact that we've got the knives thrown into the figure later on. Like, you can see them on there on the actual secondary. I'd probably give him multiple machine guns as well, so not just that regular one, but maybe that one on the card art, or maybe just one like this, or maybe one that's already in the line. Like maybe Big Ben's got a pretty chonking one, hasn't he? And Rock and Roll. I mean, there's a lot of machine guns in the line, but I'd like them to maybe do something like throw one of those in too, and you could have a couple of rifles, the backpack, the ammo clip, the removable helmet, and some knives, and away you go. And I think that would be enough, genuinely, for the SAW Viper. And then you don't need an alternate head necessarily. If you've just got a head sculpt and a removable helmet, done and dusted, covered in mustard. Yeah, that is where I'm kind of at with the SAW Viper in terms of classified. Were there any other things? Yes, I think there should be the Python Patrol logo should be emblazoned on the helmet when they do the classified version. I do expect them to go a bit closer to the modern deco than the kind of crazy red and gold underpants version. I think I think it could be, and I think that rifle could be real fun at that, not that size, a little bit smaller, but with like a removable scope and bipod and all that kind of stuff. It'd be really cool, really cool. Now, I think that's pretty much it for Classified SAW Viper. Were there any other things? I don't think there were. I don't think I've got any other kind of points I wanted to make. Head sculpts we've talked about. Secondary. I could imagine. I basically, I'd like them to do something new and fresh with it, not like reuse a lot of parts. Rifles, fine, but like in terms of like parts on the figure, I'd like a lot of new infused stuff on here. Obviously, the helmet has to be new. The secondary definitely has to be specific. And even if they did something that was like the modern version, I think that would be kind of cool. That in classified scale would be phenomenal, genuinely. But I would like to see a SAW Viper as envisioned from that first version as much as possible. I think that would be so cool. Yeah. And I think that's pretty much it. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments. Obviously, let me know what you think about SAW Viper in the classified series. What would you like to see, guys? And we'll talk about it a little bit. Let me know what you'd like to see them include. It must have an ammo backpack. That is a good shout, RKW. Yes, agreed. With the ammo kind of streaming out of it, I totally agree with you. Classified SAW Viper's gun needs to be scaled for 12-inch figures, says Ryan. That's hilarious. As Mark said earlier, give us a battle damaged head just to annoy Pat. I think that's absolutely friggin' hilarious. What else are we saying? Scott said they'll probably go with the later Python Patrol since it lines up more with what's been done. I think that's very, very likely, in all honesty, Scott. The kind of red and black all over, as opposed to the shiny gold legs and everything. Scott says they may give him Big Ben's saw, possibly as a secondary weapon. Yeah, I mean, I could see that, and I think that would be fine. So you could definitely have that, and then that. I just think that iconic rifle, as ridiculous as it is, and everyone complains about how big it is, Kitty said, scale it down a touch and make it cool. I think I'd be so into that. I want to see that rifle. I want to see that rifle in the blooming line. I just do, and I don't care what anyone else says. I do, of course I do. It would be ideal just to get the original, says G7M9W. It would be ideal to get the original just scaled properly. I agree. RKW says ditch the scope. Interesting. I don't know. I quite like the scope. I think that kind of adds like another level to it. But no, yeah. I mean, for the weapon that it is, yeah, you're probably right. But the problem is in the file card, it's like explained to an nth degree, and the scope is mentioned in that, isn't it? So I kind of feel like it has to be there for history. Definitely another troop builder. I definitely want a Python Patrol version. I agree, Carl, definitely with you on that one. I love the idea of the SAW Viper. I'm not a fan of his colors, and I could be open to a really radical recolor. Interesting. I think they're probably going to do something more subdued. I don't know. I quite like that color. I like the original figure, so it's got that mixture of like multiple different, like, that dark kind of magenta style, like, well, it's more like a burgundy, isn't it? It's like a Ron Burgundy with the kind of brighter purple on it, pinky purple. I think it's really eye-catching, and I'd be well into them doing something like that, but then subduing that a lot. But I definitely think it needs 3 colors, or 4 if you count the green, and it definitely needs a green visor. Without doubt, it needs a green visor, in my opinion. I think green, and then that kind of like subdued pink that was on the kind of more modern version, but then throw in the magenta, or burgundy, throw in the black, and really break it up a little bit, like the original figure design. That's what I'd like to see. A big buck or big secondary, agreed. It's got to be on a. That's another thing, actually. A good point. I kind of feel like he's a hench. He's going to have to be a hench kind of figure. It's probably going to have to utilize something like, a gung ho or a roadblock or a, a road pig maybe, if you know what I'm talking about. So yeah, like I think something like that, like a big body would be good. And like you say, if it's just a stonking ridiculous secondary, great. Build it up a little bit. Oh, that's harsh, Suka, but I like that. I'd love it if the Saw Viper had comes with some crossed out Joe symbols for the comic accurate takedown by the Saw Viper. You could have it on his rifle, like etched notches on his rifle, couldn't you? How dark would that be? Or on his secondary, like notched, like a blooming tally chart sort of thing for all the Joes that he's taken out. Oh my god, that would be so dark. But what a great nod to the comics, though. Do you know what I mean? Absolutely. Where's Retro Major Blood, says Stanley Eberhard. I don't know. Could be in one of the multiple retro figures we have next year, 2025, because there's still a lot to be determined as to what those figures are. So, yeah, I think Retro Major Blood could make an appearance there. You never know. I want a Mars logo on the rifle. That'd be kind of cool, Carl. Yeah, big time. Ryan Daly says, Chris, I had a fantasy that the Whip Snakes 2-pack was Zap and Short Fuse with extra steel core helmets, so they could be troop builders, like a Joe version of the 788 fire team. That's kind of cool, Ryan. I quite like that idea. And I like how you're trying to get around the loopholes. You're finding loopholes in the structure of the listings. And that's a perfectly good example, and that's why we like doing this stuff, isn't it? So yeah, I'm down for that. It's a really good idea. Liquid Identity says, I do not want original look. This is classified. Update it, modernize it, more realistic. Fair enough. I mean, it is. I mean, the design isn't exactly. It's not exactly like stuck in the 80s, though, is it? Do you know what I mean? It's not like it's not like I'm trying to think of an example. It's not like you're dealing with the OG 13. Do you know what I mean? Like there's a lot of kind of future in this one. So I feel like, yes, they could do some crazy stuff. And I mean, like that design on the right-hand side is an update, is a modern update kind of version of that one on the left. So I'm totally with you on that one. If we get either sort of style, I'd be all about it, definitely. As much as the Cobras are supposed to be armed, though, through Destro, we really don't have a Mars logo slapped on their weapons. It's true, you're right. Raspberry shade purple. I like that, Stanley. Needs a raspberry beret. Raspberry beret. It does G7M9W. What else are we saying? A bigger Cobra troop builder would give variety to the ranks. I like it, Scott. Absolutely. Big Ben Buck reuse. Big Ben, is he chonky enough though? I'd like to see this guy hench. If Shockwave can have kill marks on his shield, the Saw Viper can have them on his gun. Absolutely, Robert H. You're 100% correct. I still find it hard to believe Whip Snakes is not leaked yet. It's crazy. And that's one that I just don't have a clue about. All we know is that it's a troop builder 2-pack. That's all we know. And yeah, there's a lot of that where you kind of think, especially when it comes out, you kind of like, how did they keep that one quiet? Like everything else is leaked. How did they keep that one out of our, collective consciousness? Anyway, yeah, I think that's pretty much it, guys. I think we're there. I think we're at the final point of the class. Let's talk Classified Saw Viper. It's been fun. I'm just going to switch to my face, and then we can bring the show to a close. If you've got any more questions, we'll cover that for a few more minutes. But yeah, here we go. If Shockwave can swat on the beach, Saw Viper can. Yes. can add kills to his gun. Yeah, thank you very much for joining me. It's been fun, guys. As always, let's talk classified saw viper. Check, that one's in the books. That leaves us, I think, next we're doing dial tone, so that should be a fun one to cover. He's one of those figures as well that you look at and you go, oh, he hasn't had that many releases. He has. It's like his first version, Sonic Fighters, then he was Tiger Force, then we had the modern 4-inch 25th. We've had the dial tone gender kind of swap situation. We've had Jill Morelli. We've had 25th Tiger Force, or Joe Con Tiger Force. So that's 6 I can think of off the top of my head. There might be more. I mean, there might be, but that's another one where I go, oh, that would be an easy one to do. Saw Viper had 6 figures, and that took me blooming ages to do. Although there was a lot of specifics about Saw Viper that I kind of thought needed to be kind of, we needed to kind of get into. Do you know what I mean? We needed to kind of really look at the Marvel run. We needed to look at the Devil's Due run. We needed to look at the the only quickly, but in the Deke series, we didn't really delve into that as much depth. But there wasn't really much depth to go into on it. I think the main points were covered, but like with that, you end up with a lot of panels because you're talking about all the different pages. Yeah, Mission Brazil dial tone, absolutely, and there's 2 versions of that. So yeah, dial tone's gonna absolutely destroy me. I'd imagine. I'm just gonna have a look because I just need to know. I don't want to wait. What is it? Yeah, oh, it's loads. He's got 11 versions. Friggin' 11 versions. 1, Mission Brazil, Sonic Fighters, or was it Supersonic at that point? Was it Sonic or Supersonic at that point? Just checking. It was Sonic. So yeah, he was in the Sonic Fighters. Oh yeah, and then he got that version of the Battle Core, didn't he? He got that version of the Battle Core that I forgot about. And then that weird 2000s one. And then and then that another weird one in 2002, like a weird deco version of him. And then the Tiger Force, then Jill, then Mission Brazil modern 4-inch, then regular 4-inch modern, and then Tiger Force modern 4-inch. Yeah, I've got a lot to do there. It'll be fun to talk about though. And obviously he was a pretty big character in the Sunbow series. He's one I'm really looking forward to. Really looking forward to. I cannot wait actually for that one. Yeah, shaved a Real American Hero collection. Yeah, exactly. 2000. Oof, weird. Okay, right. That's it. Like I said, we'll have let's talk classified dial tone next, but that'll probably, I don't know, it'll take me a while to do. We've got WonderCon coming up where there's going to be some reveals for classified. So we'll be reporting on that on Saturday, the March 30th. So we'll have our episode the weekly in the morning, and then I'll probably go live following the news around about 6 or 7 in the evening on Saturday to talk about the reveals from WonderCon. And then, so in the week, I'll try and squeeze out dial tone in the week. We'll also probably have news bursts galore. You know how it is. And I think that's pretty much it. I think we're kind of with everything else. Oh, we're trying to squeeze a monthly in as well. Don't know when that's going to happen. We're going to have to do something before the end of the month as it's ticking down. Maybe we can do something on Friday. I'll see what they say. Do you know what's funny actually about dial tone? There's also the UK Action Force release, and there's also a release in China as well. So yeah, dial tone is going to absolutely kick my butt, but I'm going to try and do it. I'll work on it today and try and bust out those graphics. But anyway, it's been an absolute pleasure. Is it just Emily at WonderCon being as she is on multiple brand teams? I don't know actually if she's going to be there or not. I imagine she will be. She tends to kind of go to these kind of events, doesn't she, and kind of like be the kind of team leader on that. So she might do. I don't know. All I do know though is that we have set up a date for our interview with Emily and Lenny, and it will be following WonderCon. So once WonderCon is over and done with, over and conned with, we'll be interviewing Emily, Lenny, and I think Tony might be jumping on as well, which is great, because it'd be the first time having Tony on the show, I think. So that's great. And yeah, we'll be talking about the reveal. We'll probably be focusing on the WonderCon stuff, which is cool, right? That's totally fine. They've done a lot of they've done interviews recently and all sorts of stuff. So they've covered a lot of information from from like what fans wanted to know and all that kind of good stuff. So I'm not going to go over the same stuff. We'll just talk about what happened at WonderCon and some other bits and pieces. So yeah, awesome. Right then. I will. Don't worry. We'll get the monthly out. RKW. It will happen, and that's kind of almost done. It's just a matter of getting availability with everyone to do it. Right then. So yeah, lots coming this week. It's going to be busy. I will see you on the other side. Have a great rest of your weekend. Not that there's much left of it now, but have a great one anyway. Like I said, I'll see you very guys soon, whatever that means. Stay fresh, cheese bags. And after 3, you know what to do. 1, 2, 3. Full force. Laters. That's it for this installment of the Full Force News Burst. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. See you next time, and as always, full force. Make sure you get involved with the discussion by liking, sharing and commenting on these videos, and as always you can keep up with the show after listening by following on X, formerly Twitter, @The Full Force, liking the Facebook page, facebook.com/The Full Force. We've also added a brand new Instagram, so check us out there as well, @The Full Force Podcast, and if you would like to contact the show you can message us on any of those platforms with feedback and questions. We also have a Patreon page, so if you want to show your support for the show, see your name up in lights on these videos, or enjoy exclusive bonus content, then check out patreon.com/The Full Force Podcast, or click on the link on any of the posts this podcast appears in. Full Force.